Hello and welcome to Simply Quimby's Wooden Wreath. Thank you for joining us. Remember, your creativity is your guide, so follow it. First step is painting the red on the wreath. You're going to go ahead and move the tape down, blocking off the area that you're going to add the red paint. If you chose a different color, just go ahead and substitute that color in here. Alright, we're almost finished. Go ahead and turn it to the side and paint both of the sides on the wooden wreath. Now we're going to go ahead and let it dry, so go ahead and pause the video until it's completed. Now it's time for the fall stain. You're going to go ahead and mix the color that you've selected with a little bit of water. You can go ahead and at this point move the tape down if you're not sure if you have a steady hand, or you can go ahead and freehand it, whichever you choose. Long steady strokes across the bottom and also the top. It'll get darker as you apply more, otherwise you can add a little bit more of that paint into your water mixture to make it darker. Now it's time for stenciling the letters. This is the first part. Go ahead and remove the blue stencil from the backer paper. It's a little tricky. You're going to have to wiggle it, kind of move your finger. On the letters R, S, and also the A, the insides of it are going to stay on the backer paper and you'll have to apply them with your hand. If you have a tweezers, they work pretty slick to help you out with that. Alright, now that you've got it on, make sure you press it down really good so that there isn't any air pockets or any lift ups. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your white paint and you're actually going to go over the top of the stencil. The reason why you're adding the white paint first is to create a barrier between the white on the backer board and the stencil. That way when you apply the black won't bleed underneath it quite as much. Before you move on to the next step, make sure that you let the white paint dry. Alright, now it's time to go ahead and do the black part of the stenciling. Taking your makeup sponge that was with your kit, lightly dab a little bit of paint onto your makeup sponge, dab it back off onto your paper or your plate, and then go ahead and dab it onto the Merry and the Christmas, making sure that you get all parts of the letters. Go ahead and pause the video now if you haven't had a chance to let it dry completely. If you have let it dry, go ahead and pull off that stencil very slowly, making sure that you're lifting up in all areas. Grab a tweezers or something that is sharp. Sometimes a toothpick works really good. Making sure that you're not gouging into the wood. Lift off the insides of those S's, the A's, and the R's. If you've noticed that you have some black paint that is seeped underneath the stencil and has gotten onto your white, go ahead and take a little bit of a paintbrush, dip it in, and add just a couple of dots over the top of the black. Alright, last step is spray your wood with a sealer. Our favorite is Krylon Triple Thick. It's a high gloss sealer. Seals in all of the paint so that it doesn't brush off. You can also use a matte sealer if you don't like the shininess. After you've let it dry, it's time for the ribbons and the greens. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. It's completely up to you. Please let your imagination run wild on this part. You're going to go ahead and take the greens, make it into a bow pattern up on the top, gluing them down so that they're secured, and then take your ribbon that you've selected and add that to the top as well. You can go ahead and wrap your own bow. You can cut it into pieces like I did and continue around the wreath. I do glue down the sides of the ribbon just so that way it doesn't sway over the top of my letters and so that you can still read it. At the very end of this project, I actually didn't like the center of the burlap wreath, and so I tied a black checkered bow on and glued it down on there instead. Now what you're going to do is add the jute and go ahead and hang it. Thank you for watching. If you'd like more project ideas, you can visit us at simplyquimpy.com or at our store in Dassel.